Okay, are we on? I think it's working. All right, we're in Matthew chapter 5, if you didn't figure that out the first hour. All right. Verse 13, Matthew chapter 5 and verse 13. You are the salt of the earth. What's Jesus talking about? You all. And whatever the three things you are, your preservative, your seasoning, and your disinfectant. All right, so you're the Graneau of the earth. All right. That one doesn't sound as good, does it? That's what he meant. All right, but you are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has become tasteless, how will it be made salty again? It is good for nothing except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. Now the second hour, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do men light a lamp and put it under a peck measure, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. So let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Our goal this weekend is to grow up in Christ. And I'm not there. All right? I'm 76 years old. Been working at it for 56 years. And I'm not there yet. What's wrong with me? It's a lifetime process. Even Paul said what? Hey, I haven't arrived yet. I'm not there. And so, whatever age you are, salt, and now as we talk about light, is a what? It's a lifetime obligation. It's a lifetime commitment. And our goal is what? So they can tell the difference. That we're not like the world. We are salt, and now we're going to be light. All right? So we talked about those things. So let's understand light. Again, going back to Mahatma Gandhi. He's one of my, not heroes, but one of the guys I look to see what we're doing in the world. And if this guy could believe in Jesus but not believe in us, where's the disconnect? Mm-hmm. It's got to be in us. We haven't got enough salt, or we haven't got enough power in our batteries. I'm not sure. So again, thinking like Jesus, and that's what I'm challenging us with this weekend, is to think like Jesus saw it. How do we get there, okay? Because if I can think like the Lord, then I can do the things that Jesus did, or maybe like he did, or imitate Jesus, okay? When I get mad, what do? I get mad. What do you do when you get mad? Yeah, you're just like me. See, I can tell, yeah, this is yes, yeah. You know, anger is anger. But when Jesus got mad, what was the deal? He knew exactly. And it was righteous anger. And, you know, it was the right purpose. And it had God behind it. But when I get mad, look out. You know, ask my kids. I got 4 boys. What do you do when you have 4 boys and no girls? It's easy. Just beat the hound out of them. You know, they all play ball together. They all do the same things together, you know. And the old man can get in there with them. And we don't have to worry about dressing up. We don't have to worry about lipstick. We don't have to worry about dressing. Because we're all what? We're all boys, okay? So, with the old man like that, what do? Well, it's tough if you're my son. So, we want to talk about being, thinking, acting like Jesus, okay? And again, getting back to these verses, until Jesus' life becomes visible in my life and in your life. So that I can say I'm no longer me that lives, but Christ liveth in me. So our text tonight we just read, Matthew 14-16, you all are the light of the world. So what does Jesus mean? You're the light of the world. What's the example? And so we understand light back in the time of the Lord. We understand lights on a hill. This would be you in Mesa, Arizona. This would be you in Thailand. I couldn't find a picture of the South Edmonton Church of Christ on Facebook. What's wrong with you folks? I got Roy's picture. I got your address. I got the map. I got your schedule. But I couldn't get your faces. Otherwise, they'd be right up there. But guess what? It's not on Facebook. What else should I look at? Twitter or whatever that other stuff is? You know, I'm too old to use that kind of junk. Where's your picture at? Roy, don't we take pictures of this bunch? I mean, this is a good-looking group. I took your pictures just before we started so I could send it to Kevin. Yeah, I'm just so thrilled to be here. But how come we don't... You all aren't proud of yourself? Oh, you're not photogenic. Oh, is that what? Otherwise, you would be right here. And here's what Jesus said, that To be verb, okay? You are, not were, should, will be, could be, ought to be, want to be. You just are. You are the light of the world right now. What language is this? Thai, okay. You want me to read that for you? Thank you. All right. All right. Jesus is the light. We understand that. John 8:12. I'm the light of the world. So if Jesus is the light, then what are we? He said, you are the light of the world. What did he mean by that? Well, he wasn't talking about this building. He said, you're not the light of the community center. I noticed when we came up, all the lights weren't on, and some of y'all were nice enough to turn the lights on. So that's not what he had in mind, okay? You're not the light of the West Edmonton Mall. I was there 6 years ago and the lights worked. And you had nothing to do with it. So Jesus wasn't talking about that. Edmonton, Alberta, the Northwest, Canada, North America. Jesus said, you are the light of the whole world. And guess what? The world's in darkness. Where's this party going on at? We're staying down at the Argyle Hotel. And so, you know, stupid me, I just go around to see what's going on in your city. And so I have the Wherewithal edition. And I have the Edmonton Sun. And guess what's going on in the city of Edmonton? Food, fun, zoos, nightclubs, restaurants. Is anything going on spiritually? Oh, we're selling cars. Y'all are really good at selling cars. Every other page is the car sale. But what's going on spiritually in the city of Edmonton? Nothing. What's going on in the where? Food. What is Edmonton? Is it in the light or is it in the dark?
In the dark.
Oh, Roy, come on. I can't believe you said that. So what do we mean by if Edmonton's in the dark? Here we are in nightlife. Marriage is in Edmonton going up or down? Divorce is in Edmonton going up or down?
Up.
Oh, divorces are going up and marriage is going down. What's the deal here? Y'all don't figure out marriage? Maybe you need to have some marriage seminars here. Same thing's happening in my hometown of Apache Junction, Arizona. Same thing's happening in my family. I can tell you how many nephews and how many nieces have been divorced. How many, have you all got the same challenges? Yeah. Yeah, so what's this light of the world stuff? Is Alberta dark or light? So let's talk about darkness. Now I'm going to give you a test at the end of this because we got 11 meanings of darkness. And we get to light, there's 12 biblical meanings of light. So the test will take place at 9 o'clock. When you get done, you can go home. All right? You don't need to remember all this, but just remember, this is what Jesus is talking about when he says, you, us, we're the light of the world. All right, with the exception of secrecy now, darkness always has a bad sense, okay, biblically, all right? So the different forms of darkness are very closely allied. So it could either be the cause or the effect, but usually it goes together, all right? So the Greek word skotia, the noun, first of all, is used of physical darkness. We can understand that. So the world is dark. John chapter 6, Jesus said it was now dark and Jesus had not yet come to them. So what's the Lord talking about? Physical darkness. The sun's down, you know, and it's pitch black outside. Secondly, the word's used of secrecy, the things that we don't want revealed. Luke chapter 12, Jesus said, wherefore whatsoever you have said in the darkness shall be heard in the light, and what you have spoken in the ear in the inner chamber shall be proclaimed upon the housetop. So those are what? That's the CIA junk. That's the stuff that, you know, that's what Hillary's got on her what you call it, on her email server that we don't want you to know. All that stuff is what? Secrets. You know, it's darkness, okay? Thirdly, it talks about spiritual or moral darkness, meaning sin. So John 1:5, as John begins to introduce Jesus, and the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness apprehended it not. So darkness stands for what? For the moral darkness, okay? He said, I'm the light of the world, and he that follows me shall not walk in the darkness, but shall have the light. So that's what we're talking about tonight, the contrast between light and darkness. Then spiritual darkness, the real darkness, okay? 1 John 2:9, he that says he's in light and hates his brother is in the darkness, even until now. So when we're having these problems between brethren, when we're having these church fights, when we're having this disagreement between the leaders and the followers, guess what? John calls it what? If we hate each other, it's dark. Real dark. Intellectual darkness, Romans chapter 2. Talking about these Jews that thought they had it all together. Paul says that they're confident that you yourselves are a guide of the blind, a light of them that are in darkness. So if you weren't a Jew, you weren't keeping the Ten Commandments, you weren't keeping the law of Moses, guess what? You're all in what? You're all stupid. You know, you're just in intellectual darkness. Number 5, physical blindness. In Acts chapter 13, Paul's on Cyprus, and there's this musician or magician? You have to watch me. I got, you know, I'm too old, I worn out my tongue or something, I can't remember it. Anyway, Luke says, and now behold, the hand of the Lord is upon thee, this Bar Jesus, and you will be blind. What kind of blindness? Physical blindness. Then it's a metonymy for the place of punishment, for hell and Hades, okay? Matthew 8, the sons of the kingdom shall be cast forth into the outer darkness, and there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. What is that? That's punishment, that's what's coming. Then metaphorically of the spiritual and moral darkness, okay? Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, but if your eye be evil, your whole body shall be full of darkness. So again, whatever is in our heart, that's what's in our body. A metonymy for those who are in moral and spiritual darkness in Ephesians 5:8. You were once in darkness, but now you're what? In the light of the Lord. So it's a contrast between those two. Romans chapter 13, talking about evil work. Let us cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. Or in Ephesians 5, had no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. So darkness is the symbol for what? What goes on at night? Why are nightclubs dark? Why do worms stay under the rocks? Where do your spiders live? That's what I thought. Darkness. Why is that? Evil powers, number 10. You know who this guy is? All of you that have been to Cambodia, worked on the ship, or taught English at Julie's place at the Best Center in Phnom Penh. Everybody knows the history of Pol Pot. How many Cambodians did he kill? About I think it was maybe up to a third of the country. Anybody that wore glasses, dead. Anybody that spoke English, dead. Anybody that hiccuped, dead. Why? Because you didn't fit the new reign, okay? Evil power against the world rulers of this darkness, against the spiritual host of wickedness in the heavenly place. What is that? Man, that is evil to the nth degree. Worse than Hitler. Evil powers is darkness. And then a verb metaphorically of the mind, okay? In Romans, talking about those that don't believe in God. Because knowing God, they glorified Him not as God, neither gave thanks, but became vain in their reasoning, and their senseless heart where it's darkened. Who is it that grows square watermelons? Do you all do that here in Alberta? That's the dumbest thing I ever heard of. But it works. The Japanese invented square watermelons. What do you do with a square watermelon? Man, it packs real neat. When you're shipping square things, packs a lot better than basketballs. Yeah. And so darkness again can be used for what we got going in our mind. So what would be your idea of tonight of darkness? When you hear the term darkness, do we think physically or spiritually, morally, scripturally, maybe mentally, maybe in our family, maybe in our community here, school, our government? Now let's take the contrast. That was darkness. Now let's flip the side and talk about what Jesus talked about light. This Greek word phos, noun, to give light. Light is seen by the eye. And the neat thing about light, it's got to have a receptor. If there's no eyeball, guess what? There's no light. Isn't that amazing? Okay. So primarily light is a luminous in the imagination, probably a force from central bodies, which enables the eye to discern form and color. Light requires an organ adapted for its reception. All right. So let's see if we can understand that. In Matthew 6, the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Hear no evil, see no evil, and what? Speak no evil, the three monkeys. So let's talk about light biblically, okay? In darkness we had 11 definitions, 11 meanings. Now in light we've got 12. And again, we don't have to understand or memorize all these, but just so we have a concept of what Jesus is talking about. First of all, light is referring to where God dwells, okay? 1 Timothy 6, dwelling in light, unapproachable, whom no man has seen nor can see. So where God is, that's pure light. Then the nature of God himself. 1 John 1:5, that God is light and in him is no darkness at all. Not a smidge, okay? Thirdly, the impartiality of God. There is no partiality with the Lord. James 1:17, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom can there be no variation, neither shadow that is cast by turning. So with God, there's none of what we have here on earth. Job, before Job's dilemma, before he lost everything, before he got sick, he said, I smiled at them. They scarcely believed it. The light on my face was precious to them. That's the face of a what? Of a very influential man, which Job was before his dilemma. God is the illuminator of his people in Isaiah chapter 60. The sun will no more be your light by day, nor the brightness of the moon shine on you, for the Lord will be your everlasting light, and your God will be your glory. So God is what? He's the one that illuminates us. Jesus is our illuminator. John 1:4-5. Again, introducing Jesus. In him was life. The light was the light of us, of men. And the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness didn't understand it. We talk about the Scripture being a light, and we get that from Psalms 119. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light for my path. And we quote that all the time, and that's true. The guidance of God in Job 29. When his lamp shone upon my head, and by his light I walked through darkness. Great. We know, number 9, salvation, 1 Peter 2:9. You are an elect race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for God's own possession. Why? That you show forth the excellence of him who called you out of his what? Darkness into his marvelous light. So the contrast again between real light and real darkness. And then righteousness. Light then is a synonym for righteousness. He that says he's in the light and hates his brother is in the darkness, even until now. Okay? So if you hate your brother, you're what? You're not righteous. You're in the darkness. So the light then is that which is right and good and holy and pure and like good. And so Jesus said, if we're the light of the world, we're the city set on a hill. We're a witness for God. Even so, let your light shine before men. They'll see your good works and glorify your Father. So the men do what with the light? They set it on a lampstand. The city on a hill cannot be hid. And last of all, in Isaiah 58, if you spend yourselves in behalf of the hungry and satisfy the needs of the oppressed, then your light will rise in the darkness, and your night will become like the noonday. So light again is a symbol of generosity and well-being and good works. So Jesus said a city set on a hill cannot be hid. Where is he teaching at? He's on the hill of the Sea of Galilee. Mountains, not tall mountains, but hills sloping up. Okay, the crowds are gathered around. And so this is an actual photograph of the Sea of Galilee. All right. The sea is 12 miles long and 7 miles wide, and it's surrounded by these higher mountains or hills. In the evening, the Roman soldiers had their camps up on the top of these hills, okay? And so at night you could see these lights. And what they were the Roman legions and their bonfires as they guarded the area for the night. And there was up to 12 or 14 legions of each legion had 6,000 men that were stationed in the province of Galilee. And so we're allowed to see these fires all around the lake at night. And the archaeologists have discovered about 90 of these Grecian Roman towns that were in these hills. And so it's very common for the people in Jesus' day to have this idea of a city set on a hill, these lights. So how did Jesus say that we'll let our light shine? He said, see your good works. See your good deeds. So Paul's commentary on 1 Timothy 5, the sins of some men are quite evident, going before them to judgment. Others, their sins follow after them. Likewise, deeds that are good are quite evident, and those which are otherwise cannot be concealed. So when I say Hillary Clinton, what do you think of? Oh, you're not Americans. Okay. If I said, well, is there some Canadian that has that kind of effect on you that Hillary has on me? Yeah, I can see that. Okay. So we understand what Paul is talking about. The deeds that are good and those which are not, or the opposite, are quite evident. So we know folks by their activities. So 1 John chapter 2, verse 16, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the boastful pride of life, is not from the Father, but from the world. So is this a good work? What's wrong? Oh, this doesn't happen in Edmonton.
Oh, yes.
No, it's so cold, we don't wear short skirts. We just don't have that problem whatsoever. No, Fox, you don't understand. So they'll see our good works. And we see that every day. You know, we see, oh, yes. So let's talk about that good works. It's key that we understand what Jesus is talking about, okay? In the Greek, in the original text of the New Testament, in Jesus' sermon, there's two words for good. One is this word agatos, which is good in quality, practicality, and morally good. And then there's kalos. Jesus used this word. Not only good, but also winsome and beautiful and attractive. So there's good, and then there's this kalos good. It's a whole different breed, a whole different brand of good. And so it's really clear in Thai. The word for good in Thai is di, okay? But this kalos in Thai is narak di. If you say that your baby is narak, woo, your baby's beautiful. Wow, man, that kid is really good looking, okay? But if you said, oh, your baby's di, you know, that just means, you know, it's a kid, you know. So in English, we don't have this word, but in Thai it's very, very clear. So let's remember agatos and kalos here. Illustration, Matthew 26. Jesus is in Bethany at the home of Simon the leper. This woman comes in, invades this dinner party, and begins to anoint Jesus' head with this precious ointment. Very costly perfume. She poured it on his head, and as he reclined at the table, the disciples were mad. They're indignant. And they said, why this waste? This perfume might have been sold for a high price and the money given to the poor. Are they in your congregation? I used to love it when we were in the congregation down in El Centro. I was a brand new Christian, didn't know a whole lot. And they wouldn't support orphan homes. And they wouldn't do things in cooperation with their other congregations. But they would buy manure for the lawn. And I never could figure that out. Here in the love of Jesus, we could buy fertilizer, which is made out of what? Yeah. But we couldn't go over here and we couldn't help kids that didn't have mom and dad and were deeds, good deeds. I think sometimes I sat here with these guys and complained about that. So Jesus, aware of them, said, why do you bother this woman? For she has done not a deed, she has done a good deed for me. The Greek is not agatos, but kalos. Yes. For the poor you have with you always, but you do not always have me. For when she poured this perfume upon my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Truly I say to you, whenever this gospel is preached in the whole world, what this woman has done shall be spoken of in memory of her. What did she do? A good deed. So the disciples looked and said, man, this is stupid. You know, you're wasting this money. And Jesus said, why do you bother? She's done a good deed for me. So good means what? She demonstrated love that was what? Extravagant. Expensive. Some people said it was wasteful. So I wonder if we can find this kind of goodness. Who's this dumb guy? Can you imagine how stupid he is? He's the vice principal of a high school here in Edmonton. Where is he now? Eating rice. Working with people that don't speak English. Surely you wouldn't quit your job. You wouldn't get your wife to quit her job as a cardiac care nurse and do what? Go to where? In what country? On what kind of a ship? For what kind of people? They don't speak English. They don't dress like us. They don't like They're French fries with gravy? Do y'all like your French fries with gravy? Shame on you. How can you ruin good French fries with gravy? We had lunch with what's-her-names, Peter and Linda today. And they're trying to tell me that Canadians eat their French fries with gravy. I said, nobody in their right mind would do that. And sure enough, guess what? Y'all do. So, as we're looking for not the agatos, but the kalos-no, one of the first the people that come to my mind is Kevin. What's a good deed about that? What's extravagant about that? You're looking at a guy that did the same dumb thing Kevin did. When I was 27, I quit my job with the U.S. Gypsum Company. We were up working in Utah, managing a sheetrock factory, and went down to Sunset and studied 2 years, and then went to Thailand for 10 years. Mom said, stupid. Mom was still in that Presbyterian bunch that I was raised in. My stepfather said, stupid. They didn't understand what? They didn't understand, Kevin, what is a good deed? What is it that makes the difference between good and a good deed? What's a deed and a good deed, as Jesus is talking about here? Who are these folks here? I shot that out of the window of the ship last year. There was 100 folks out there waiting to see who? Kevin? No. Waiting to see the doctors. Who made that all possible? Kevin and Catherine. Wow. Good deeds. KALOS-no English translation. There's not an English word that really translates this meaning, okay? The beauty, the winsomeness, the attractiveness, the generosity. Wow. So, what Jesus is saying is our actions should not only be good, but they should be beautifully good, attractively good, okay? And so when I do something good, do I draw attention to Kenneth N. Fox? Or do I draw attention to Jehovah God? So I've got an office in the Mesa Church of Christ. I'm the part-time, temporary minister for the church. We used to have 3 preachers and 2 of them are gone, and so we've got 1 preacher and we've got 450 folks. So that works out to how many men per preacher, or how many members per preacher? 450 to 1. That's not a good odds. So the elders said, hey, Ken, would you kind of fill in temporarily? So I did. So what's the name on my office door? Kenneth N. Fox. Part-time, temporary minister. No, the name on my door says room 106. I turned it into a classroom, okay? The whole idea is not to draw attention to us, but draw attention to who? To Him, okay? So what is Jesus talking about? We brought dinner for the potluck. We swept the floor. Is that what He's talking about, this kalos? What's this kalos? So we see these good works all the time on TV. You know her, and you know that, and you know him. The TV evangelist with the sugar tongues. And at the end of every 5th word it says what? Send your money, send your money, send your money. Yeah. So is this the kind of good works we're talking about? Probably not. In America we do these things. We have religion with rattlesnakes. I don't think you all developed that well here, have you? No, they lost 71 folks in the last 30 years handling rattlesnakes. It seems like when a rattlesnake bites you, it has some kind of bad effect. But doing that, there is a verse in Mark 16 that says, hey, you can handle them vipers, and sure enough you do, and guess what? When they bite you, you die. This is Buddhism in Thailand. Good works, when thousands of folks get together and get in that position, the Buddha position, and they all give homage to Buddha. What kind of good works are we talking about? They've even got so good at the Buddhists now that you don't have to go to the priest for your fortune to be told. You can now go into the temple and put the money in and then pull the handle, and guess what? You get your fortune read. Wow, what a deal. Good works. So what comes to mind is the best way to let your light shine? What are good deeds in 2016? Does Mother Teresa come to mind? Why would we think of somebody like Mother Teresa? Good deeds, good works. Well, we think of somebody that sacrifices, someone that's given up, someone that kind of pours their life into some unfortunate situation like handling lepers in India. That would be kind of unfortunate. Deeds, the Greek word ekron, work, employment, task. So Paul says, conduct yourselves in a manner worthy of the gospel. Titus chapter 2, He gave Himself for us that we might redeem us from every lawlessness deed and purify Himself a people for His own possession, zealous for what? Good deeds. Not agathos, but kalos. Those kind of deeds, attractive, winsome. So Jesus said, be careful, in Matthew chapter 6, the Sermon on the Mount. Take heed, do not do your righteousness before men to be seen of them. Now wait a minute. In chapter 5, verse 16, He says that men may see it. Now, is there a contradiction here? Verse 6, men see your good works. Chapter 6, verse 1, take heed that you do not your righteousness before men to be seen of them. What's the deal? Is this counter? What's Jesus' point? The point is our motivation, our attitude. Are we ringing our bell? Are we blowing our own trumpet? At the end of this verse here, He says they have received their reward. So if we do things that have folks praise us, guess what? You got it right here now. You don't need to worry about the future. So what keeps us from blowing our own horn when we do good works? Well, when you go home tonight, take this test. I'll give you a quarter for every good deed you did today. And then you stop at McDonald's and see if you got enough money to buy a hamburger. Uh-oh, you all going to go hungry? Did we see these this week? Agathos. I picked up the parking lot trash. I visited sick. I made a phone call. I wrote emails. Those are all good deeds, and we're not saying anything about that. But now we're looking for the kalos. Kevin Carson came to Mesa a couple months ago on a Wednesday. And so we as the congregation wanted to honor him. We also wanted him to speak to us. So that Wednesday night we have about 150 folks, about 2-3 times as many we have here tonight. And so we put on a full course meal that night. The only thing is nobody put it on except one lady. She said, oh, Kevin's coming. She said, can I furnish food? And so she, by herself and her husband Bruce, cooked food for 150 folks on a Wednesday night. And then she brought in the desserts. And they were exotic. They had cream and they had chocolate and they had other, and she had a whole table full of them. And she did this whole thing by herself. Why? Because Kevin Carson was coming to town. If that wasn't a good deed, I haven't heard of one lately. I'll take it back. Now, I have not cooked food for 150 folks. But I won't tell this if Jean's not here, so she won't hear it, okay? Back when we were raising money to go to Thailand the first time, going back to Thailand, I made a deal with the congregation. At that time, there was about 600 members. And I said, hey, every Sunday we're going to furnish Thai food for a sixth of the congregation, about 100 people. So I'd get up at 5 o'clock on Sunday morning and I'd make Thai chicken, barbecue chicken. And Jean would get up and make stir fry and make curry. And we'd feed 100 people. And the next Sunday, guess what? We did it again. And the next Sunday, we did it again. About the fourth Sunday, I got divorced. Jean didn't think that was very smart. She didn't even think that was a good deed. But when Kevin Carson came to Mesa, one sweet sister out of her own heart said, what? I'd like to do that for them. Kalos. I don't know if you all read the news in Charleston, South Carolina last year. A guy named by the name of Dylan Roof walked into a Wednesday night Bible study, sat down and prayed with them, studied with them, and then pulled out a gun and shot all 9 of them in the Bible study. Did you hear that? Yes. Tragic? Yeah. Tragic. Where was the kalos in this? The families of those 9 people the next day forgave him. I'll tell you what, this old man standing in front of you would find that hard to do. If somebody just shot my wife at a Bible study or killed one of my kids at the Bible, and I think 3 of the folks who were killed were preachers. If somebody had done that to me, I think I'd find it tough to say I would forgive Dylan Roof. But guess what? They did. I think that might be a little kalos. When this hit the news, one man gave $100,000 so that each one of those people who were killed would have $10,000 for their funeral. The guy that did that was Jerry Richardson. He owns the Carolina Panthers. I think they play some kind of American game called football, something called NFL. Yeah, I'm not a sports nut, you can obviously tell that. But somebody that has all this would do what? For somebody that didn't even know to give $100,000 to bury these folks, I think that might be a kalos. It's funny, in American schools and the cafeterias now, because we have a president's wife that's a tree hugger and an environmentalist and doing all those good things for the world, we no longer have salt and pepper and sugar in the school cafeterias. So the newest blackmail game in the American schools are for kids to sneak in sugar and salt and pepper and sell it to their classmates. Is that kalos or is that agathos? You just think about good deeds. Jesus said what? You are the light of the world. And so we should go out, let our light shine as lights in that world. So tomorrow morning we'll start with Philippians chapter 2 and verse 15. See if we can make an application now. Because we are salt, because we are light, how then does that help us think like Jesus? We're laying the foundation, okay? And now we want to build on that. And once we understand what we are, then what are we going to do with it? Now, at 10 o'clock we're going to meet. Is that right, Roy?
10:30.
Oh.
It says 10 o'clock on the schedule.
Yeah, somebody read Roy the schedule.
To me, it's 10:30. That is there.
It says 10 or 10:30. It's 10.
It's 10. Okay.
Okay, you agree? All right, all in favor, 10? No.
Saturday, 10:30 to 3 p.m.
Ah, okay. So here's the deal. At 10 o'clock, we're gonna meet together, and then at 11, Jean's gonna gather with the ladies and do some lady things, and then after lunch, we're gonna do some more lady things, and she's gonna tell you about 46 years on the mission field, and she's been working on that for 2 months, and she won't sleep at all tonight. Because she doesn't normally talk in front of you folks. And so I'd appreciate it if y'all come back tomorrow and say, hey, Gene, good try. No, give her a lot of encouragement. It's been a joy to be with you tonight, really. Again, you're one of my favorite congregations, even though we've never met, just because of what Kevin and Catherine have said about you. And now I find out there's a whole bunch of you that I met or should have met in Cambodia, or did meet and forgot you. Yeah. My excuse is I'm old. I don't know what your excuse is, okay? So, look forward to seeing you in the morning. Roy, we're going to have one last song?
Yes, we will.
Okay, great.
Thank you for listening to the lesson. And we hope you were blessed and challenged by the Word of God. The South Edmonton Church of Christ meets at the Southwood Community Center in Millwoods, Edmonton, Canada. Our location is 1880 37th Street Northwest. Our phone contacts are, in Canada, you can call us at 780-902-1329. For those living outside of Canada, you can call us at 321-220-7519. Our meeting times on Sundays are as follows. 10 a.m. Bible class for all ages. 11 a.m. we meet for worship, to break bread, to have the communion, to remember the death of Christ. We sing, we pray, we give of our earnings as God has prospered us, and we fellowship one with another. Always remember, at the churches of Christ, a warm welcome awaits you.